Metafix is a show that teaches you how to think in the metagame. I am not here to give you the answers, nor am I going to tell you how to win. Metafix teaches you how to play in the metagame and how to react around the metagame and what is in the metagame. If you're looking for the answers, try HC Realms, check the forums, they have all kinds of neat toys and tools and teams being brought up, and check the results of a lot of the ROC tournaments or any Worlds tournaments to see how teams played out and what teams were used for. I'm just here to help you think. It's hot here in Canada, man. Holy smokes. I just have to turn off the air conditioner because it's too loud on this thing, and I'm just like insta-sweat. In any case, here I am in front of my computer once again as we wait for the part to come in for the tripod. Here's hoping that happens soon. In the meantime, for those of you who watched the Metal Lab, you know that the Watchlist happened. The Watchlist had a couple figures on it. We had Felix Faust, we had Doctor Strange, we had the OP kit Scarlet Witch, we had the orange battery, and we had the yellow power battery. Now, I'm going to start this very quickly. Technically, 3 of those didn't change, and those include Doctor Strange, orange battery, and the Sinestro core battery. Those really didn't get changed, with one exception to Doctor Strange and one exception to orange battery. And that is that the orange battery can't do anything about map-related improved movement. So if, for instance, you're playing on the space map, or there's the space map, and then there's the AVX Moon, Surface of the Moon map, or the Trinity War Atlantis map. Though Fear itself is included in this, let's keep it modern. That improved movement will always stay regardless of the orange battery's ability to take away improved movement. That said, Doctor Strange was minorly changed by an overarching change, which actually goes back in time and changes Resurrection Man and Impossible Man, though I don't know what the wording on those cards are. And that is the fact that D20s now can't be rerolled because there's a rule related to probability control where probability control can only reroll dice rolls made with D6s. Now, when I say this, Doctor Strange is still rerollable by such characters as Rocket Raccoon, because Rocket Raccoon his reroll power is not probability control, and I've always said it is better than probability control, and now it's still better than probability control, if not more so, because probability control got worse. So that's the easy part of this episode. The next part, we have to talk about Felix Faust, and we have to talk about the Scarlet Witch. Now, Felix Faust's overarching changes include the inability to reroll the D20, which is, as far as the state of the fair game goes, a fantastic change. The fact that he was running a 50-50 chance on the initial dice roll of a lot of hard blocks, the fact that you can't upgrade that chance by re-rolling it is greatly improved. Now, there are further changes that occurred to Felix Faust that includes several of the abilities that actually hard lock you from taking certain actions, or rather limiting you to one type of action per turn. Now, I'm going to name those off specifically in a second, as they are their names, etc. And I should actually probably have the card in front of me so that I can tell you which symbols they include. But in a nutshell, the power that's labeled, and this is all coming from the D20 powers. Seek the Book of Magics, the Green Bell of Uthul, the Wheel of Neralath, the Red Jar of Calathos, and Project Thomaton are all limited to 7 range. Now, this was give them a free action to your next turn. Opposing characters may only be given range combat actions. Now it's opposing characters within 7 squares may only make range combat actions, and so on and so forth for limiting movements. As well, the Mystical Trap no longer can no longer cause a hard lock at the end of the game, where if you Mystical Trap the last character on their team, they would be stuck there. Mystical Trap now reads that you give Felix Faust power action and choose one opposing character. That's one of the parts that's in red. Within 8 squares, with the mystical keyword, and one other opposing character within 8 squares. Place a special mystical trap marker in a square occupied by each chosen character. Even if this power is lost, while a character occupies a square with a special mystical map marker, that character can't move from the square. when a character who occupies a square with a special mystical trap marker takes damage from an attack, or all opposing characters occupy mystical trap markers, remove the special mystical trap marker. So that means if you have one character left and he's stuck under a mystical trap, you remove the mystical trap because you can't just hard lock the last character anymore. Kind of like how they said High Father can no longer lock down a single character. They kind of stopped that whole one character hard lock. So what happens to Mr. Felix Faust is his place in the metagame changes. He is no longer the must-have, but he's still to a degree of he does have a good degree of usability. Now, that degree of usability comes at a great cost. You have really got to work now in order to make all of these hardlock powers work. You have to start the turn within 7 squares of your opponent, which means you put yourself in a turn's worth of danger ahead of time. As well, now you do still have a lot of none of the other powers change. So the red power shows up, you are still able to lock your opponent down to 3 movement. But what you roll is what you get now. And then you only get one shot at that. So you can't really rely on him. So he now becomes an 80-point character with 5 clicks, decent enough stats, 3 damage and perplex with the mystical team ability. He's not necessarily a bad character per se, but he's definitely not doing to the game what he used to. He went from being worth about 200 points, a scary amount of 200 points, to being worth about 80 points now. Let's be really honest about it. He still has some very effective powers, like the power where you roll on the yellow. That can really do a lot of damage to a team as a whole. He's still got the red power. It can really be frustrating if your opponent's making some major maneuvers across the board and you roll that and it's boom, back to the start. He doesn't have the safety of the starting area anymore. So now Felix Faust has changed to such a good degree that he's no longer the be-all, end-all. He's an ends to a mean that is no longer the only option or the only character you have to play against. So it's no longer bring Faust or Copycat. You can all relax about that. The next major change was made to Scarlet Witch. Now, I went over this. I went over a lot of this with Mike and Tom, but some of it might have got lost in the conversation. So I'm just kind of reiterating some things I might have said or some new thoughts I've had since. I'm going to be reiterating this one on the Scarlet Witch. The Hex Magic token. Once per turn after an attack roll has been determined, Scarlet Witch may give the attacker up to 3 Hex Magic tokens if the attacker is within range. It still basically functions. You still give them the Hex Magic tokens and reduce the dice roll in the exact same way. But here's the hard part, or the kind of the nerfing. A character may not be given Hex Magic tokens if they would have more than 3 Hex Magic tokens on their card. So what this means is that you're now being a little bit more careful about how many Hex Magic tokens you're putting on. Sometimes I've seen guys just willy-nilly put 3 on every time because what's the damage, right? Now you're kind of playing a game of cut and loss. Just to further iterate, that there's nothing beyond that change, that major change where where the limitation on how many of the characters you can, how many tokens you can put on the character is. So what happens now is if let's say their team relies on one big attacker, now you're hoping that the rolls are not major meltdown issues with the Hex Magic tokens. You now only kind of want to put 1 token down at a time at best, so you can get 3 uses out of it. Now, granted, they'll be returning fire with +1 attack on the next action, but you're trying to mitigate that now. In a nutshell, it is no longer the thing that's going to stop a tentpole from attacking. And it's one of those things that I'm finding happens often with these rules changes, is that they have to take in consideration in the game of Heroclix at 300 points. Often there are times where teams only have 1 attacker. Though I'm not personally the most comfortable with that strategy, it's a legitimate strategy, and it has done fairly well in the past and continues to run rampant in the metagame. And is it broken? No. Is it easy to nerf with the accidental use of a single power? Yeah. As we saw from this metagame, or from this watch list, it is very, very easy to accidentally muggle this up. I went all Harry Potter on that one. So now Scarlet Witch becomes less of a constant and more of a reactionary method that requires you to capitalize on it. She's still good. She's a 75-point character with 10 attack and psychic blast for one thing. Her defense isn't the greatest. She's got super senses still, and a super senses that could punish your opponent if it doesn't work. On a 50-50 chance. That said, I still think she's good. She's not as reliable as she used to be, but what you now have to put her on your team knowing you have to retaliate with a counterattack. You have to, if you're going to Hex Magic or Hex Token something, that there has to be when you take that character down. And you got to know the characters that you're going to be taking down. Some of the harder options are going to be characters like Kyle Rayner. You're not going to go done because he's got that obnoxious little stop click to deal with. So it may be, if you're not using the Hex Token to completely counterattack Smite and murder the guy, it might be a good chance to cripple the character in such a way like Incapacitate, or give them action tokens somehow with some kind of character that might give action tokens with poison. I feel like I just made that up. Did I make that up, Amber?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, Carrion's not in the metagame anymore. So, I mean, you got to find a way to either hard stop that character somehow with some extra action tokens, or kill him. And that's basically, the Scarlet Witch is no longer insta-reliable. Now, she's still super effective against big teams because she still uses that power once, and if they have multiple attackers, you can do it against different attackers at each interval. It'll become your opponent's chance. If your opponent is smart, they'll be able to kind of attack around it, but you will still be able to stop one or two attacks at the right time. So in a nutshell, the Watchlist happened. It was good. Felix Faust is no longer the biggest threat in the metagame, so we can all be relieved and excited about that. And the metagame is back in flow. Hopefully we'll see Felix Faust immediately back in the ROC, or off of the ROC banned list, because he works now and he's functional. And yeah, that's all we got for Metafix this week. I'll see you guys next week, hopefully from the kitchen again. But if not, well, we'll be back in front of the computer. And don't forget to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. We have a couple good rewards if you're up for supporting the show in any way. We'll accept any support, and we'll also accept no support. Nothing is changing about the channel, and just remember that, guys. All right? In the meantime, I'll talk to you guys later, and remember, practice makes your team better.
The opinions and thoughts brought to you in Metafix are not meant for the casual game at the table. Married with Clix is brought to you by Majestic's Heroclix Sales down in Costa Mesa, California. Right now, they're in the middle of a storefront change. In the meantime, don't forget to check out their eBay store. If you check the link down below, they always have great Heroclix stuff at fantastic prices, and they'll ship just about anywhere.